Welcome back to the Sideline Live podcast. You can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at the Sideline Live. We'd love to hear from you. On episode 51, I am delighted to be joined by Ballyboden and Dublin star Robbie McDaid. We discussed the many setbacks and challenges he has overcome. We also touched on team culture, a player-driven environment, individual practice and a shooting challenge you can try at home. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Robbie, so I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hi Robbie, thanks a million for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Orla. It's great to be here.
Delighted to have you on. Loads to chat about, but before we get into everything, I just want to kind of go back to a little bit of underage career. When did the dream kind of start for playing for Dublin, and when did that kind of come to fruition with, let's say, development squads and underage teams?
Yeah, so I suppose my first involvement with a development squad would have been under 14 or so. I actually remember going for trials around under 13 and having to leave early to go up to Donegal with my family. So needless to say, I didn't get a call back, but the manager at the time, I had Desi underage, and he came out and had a look at me play against Raheny. I actually remember the game very well because Raheny were one of the top teams at my age. And I played well in that game, and after that I got called into the development squad, and I suppose then it kind of became, a real possible dream. And you always want to play with your county and all that, but when you don't maybe make the squad or anything like that, you can start doubting and kind of get comfortable where you are. But no, once I got called in for that, it was definitely where I wanted to be, and just loves being in that environment with, surrounded by the best players at your age.
Did you find that you were at a younger age, I know with the minor team you were full-back and captain, but at the earlier stages, did you always stand out growing up, or was it when you got into that team, you said they're the best players your age, did you find that a bit of a jump and a bit of an adjustment period?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's at under 12 they do this Easter tournament. I'm not too sure if they still run it now, but where it's north against south, and again, the likes of Raheny, Castleknock, they were the very strong teams at my age, growing up. And with Ballyboden, coming up towards minor, I would have played in Division 2, and that particular tournament, where I only made the B team for the south side. So, definitely there was a big adjustment. A lot of learning, definitely around that time. And yeah, underage, minor, I was fullback, but underage, I would have been out towards midfield for the club, and kind of, moving in and out between the half-back line, midfield and half-forward line. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, definitely, I found a comfort zone in the fullback line when I got put there with Desi at minor, and I played the minor championship with the club at cornerback as well, kind of on a man marking job. So you kind of found your niche at that stage, and started to hone in on it a bit, yeah.
With that minor Dublin team, you're named captain. Looking back now from what you know and your experience, why do you think they named you as captain? And at the time, how did you find that experience and that role within the team?
Yes, brilliant honour. And I say, looking back now, and you see what a lot of those lads have gone on to do in the game, it makes it even more special almost. I suppose, I never would have been the loudest in the dressing room or anything like that. But I suppose, when I was given a job to do on the pitch, and, I'd go out and I'd do that job, and maybe it was, led by example more so than anything else. And, I'd get along with the lads as well, but without being the loudest, as I said. But I suppose maybe that was one of the thoughts behind choosing me. But as I say, yeah, it was such a brilliant honour for myself at the time, and I suppose I didn't really realise how big of an achievement it was, and you kind of only appreciate it more as you move on toward well, not towards retirement yet, but as you move on, it's been 10 years now, I suppose, since that minor year. So and then I say, when you see what a lot of those lads have gone on to achieve, it's just incredible.
Absolutely. You made a move then up to under 21. You won an Ireland title, and you won a Sigerson actually with UCD. Kind of have skipped a couple of years, but at the time, I guess you were doing everything right. You were coming in with the under 21s, winning All Ireland, Sigerson Cup with UCD, then the Ireland title with Ballyboden. But you were called into the Dublin squad. What was it, around 2014, 2015?
Yeah, it would have been the end of I think November time, 2014, for the 2015 season.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took a while.
Yeah.
I suppose in between my minor year and my under 21 title, I actually took a year out from the Gaelic.
Okay.
So when I went to UCD, I got called up straight after minor for 21s under Jim Gavin. But I was a bit burnt out at that stage. Wasn't necessarily enjoying it as such, and I was in sixth year as well, so I took a step a bit. And then when I went to UCD, I signed up for the Gaelic team there and travelled for one game and just said, here, I've had enough. So I actually ended up,
okay.
Yeah, so I ended up playing soccer with them, and that was a brilliant year as well. We won the All Ireland in the soccer, and I suppose one of my greatest achievements in soccer, while it was short lived, was I got player of the tournament for the All. So I suppose that kind of interfered with my second year under 21, and then it kind of came around to my last year at 21, and at the same time I'd gone back to playing with the club after a good while out, and,
okay.
and then Desi got in contact with me again saying he'd like me in. So after the heartbreak of losing an All Ireland at minor, I wanted to make sure I had one. So I said I'd sign up then for the 21 season. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I didn't realise there was a gap. Wait, sorry.
A bit of a strange path to go, but yeah, it was definitely one I benefited from, I think, overall.
Yeah, definitely. I actually didn't know you took the year out after minor. Do you think that was down to, as you said, leaving cert? There's a lot going on. You were a little bit burnt out and probably losing the final. Just a couple of things accumulated into one there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, but yeah, I suppose the year that was in it and losing the final, and then leaving cert, the pressures that come with that, and then just a bit of fatigue. It was definitely, a lot to take on young shoulders. And I think it was just, I always had an interest in soccer, and I played 2 years of it around under 14, under 15 for Wayside Celtic. And I loved those years there, but then obviously gave that up to focus on the minor football. So I think I threw a lot into one, all my eggs into one basket for the minor. And I suppose mentally and physically it took its toll, and I just needed a little break from that. So the soccer, nice little break for it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you found then kind of coming into that under 21, you wanted the All Ireland, but you were kind of rejuvenated and that love kind of came back.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's it was kind of almost like a redemption type of job. But yeah, no, definitely by then, I'd had a few good seasons with the club. Still playing club at this stage. But yeah, I got my love back for it. And I realised that I was well capable of getting back to that level at intercounty, and I had a great year at under 21. I played cornerback for that team, and I loved it. And yeah, the love for the game was back for sure.
Did you find that throughout the rest of your career, have you ever suffered with that kind of like losing the love of football at all?
Definitely, yeah, definitely around that stage. It's just because, as I said, I put so much time and effort into it. So that definitely around then, and every now and then you might get lulled, but it only kind of comes around times like this where you're injured or something like that where you actually can't play. Very easy to kind of moan them, but when you're fully fit, it's there's no question about how much you love it, and like all your evenings you want to throw towards it as well, which is great.
Totally. Speaking of all those evenings, I suppose when you're going into the Dublin panel, and is there a conversation, whether with yourself or with Jim, where you kind of have a chat about, I'm coming into the team, I'm committing, and I'm putting my life on hold here with the commitment wise for intercounty, and it looks like I won't have, let's say, a massive role to play in the team?
Yeah, like it's definitely one of those things. I was coming into a team. They obviously hadn't won the All Ireland that year, but they'd won 2 in the last 3 or something like that. So it was quite a successful team, and there's a big buzz around it. And that was, I suppose, 2015 was at the start of the 6 in a row. Like, so it was quite a strong panel you're going into with a lot of big stars, and you're going in as a young lad, and I suppose you don't want to overstep your mark, but also you want to push and show what you can do yourself. But and I suppose maybe that's one of the regrets I have, going into a team that's quite successful, and people telling you, oh well, you just you have to serve your time type of thing. You kind of, you just go and push in, and that's definitely one of my regrets, maybe kind of going in and thinking, well, I'll learn, and definitely you learn, but maybe not going that extra bit and being a bit more, I suppose, selfish in a way to try push and press yourself, and you're there for a reason. You're not there to fill numbers.
Exactly. Were you a bit starstruck maybe coming into the panel? Like you mentioned there's a highly successful team, and you would have grown up, I know, particularly maybe 2011, you played in the All-Ireland minor final, and an hour later they had captured the first All-Ireland title in 16 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. You see these big names, and you would go in and you would be, you try not to tell yourself you're not, but you are slightly like starstruck by the names. But you learn fairly fast that they're just like yourself. They're hardworking athletes, who are putting in the same amount of effort, and you just then take a step back and try pick up one or two things off them. Because I would have gone in, I'd say, as a cornerback or fullback or around the fullback line anyway, and you'd be marking the top inside forward. So you learn fairly quickly what you need to get to and what level you want to get yourself ready for.
What were some of those things you picked up marking those top players?
I suppose kind of learn when to attack the ball.
Okay.
They can roll you fairly handy with all their experience and all. But I suppose just learning how to read players, learn how not to sell yourself to a dummy, or just being strong in the tackle, because you are really the last line of the defense when they're running at you. So you do kind of, when you get called up and it's your first year, you get thrown into the deep end, but it's the best way to pick things up for sure.
Absolutely. Did anyone give you any advice kind of starting off in your first or second year at training, or in regards to playing for Dublin, or just really anything there?
Yeah, well, I suppose my own clubmates, like when I got called in, obviously Michael Dara would have been there, and Darren Nelson as well. Two lads have given so much to the county and to the club as well. So, I wasn't driving at the time, so I would have gone over with them a few times. Nicky Devereux as well from Ballantyre St. John's, he was heavily involved as well. So, you'd be listening to them, and Darren Nelson and Nicky would have been defenders as well. So, you pick a lot up off them, and you're there, you're just absorbing it all, you're soaking it all in. But then you're also, they're also telling you, as I said, you're there to, you're there to contribute. You're not there to just fill the numbers in.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested in kind of team culture and stuff like that, and I suppose, can you give us a bit of an insight into the team culture and, as you said there, the excellence that goes into it? And I'm very much an outsider, I don't know what goes on, but I get the sense that the team is very player driven. Everything kind of comes from the players. Maybe it's facilitated, and maybe at the beginning it was by management, but it seems to be that the players really drive everything forward. Yeah,
absolutely. Like I'd say the players there, they give so much to it, and it would be very player driven. In fairness, like the standards that the lads set is so high, and I suppose one of those things that there's always people who would give anything to be in on the panel as well, who are ready to take your spot if those standards slip. And I suppose that kind of is an element that drives a lot of the lads on. But yeah, no, in fairness, that's kind of one of the things we pride ourselves on, is the player driven standards, I suppose. Obviously it's facilitated by the management, but it's it's one of those things that the lads take a lot of ownership on and drive on themselves.
For yourself, would you have much of like a pre-game routine or pre-training routine? More of, I've heard some before talking about intercounty players show up to training an hour beforehand. What do you do within that hour and kind of that prep for training beforehand?
Yeah, so yes, same job. We show up an hour early, and again, like some lads, they like to just use that hour or 40 minutes to chat away and catch up on whatever. But you'd have your little area to go do your bit of prehab stuff, going to the physio, get get little rubs or strapping, whatever you need. And it's all about, coming and making sure you're prepared to go out and give your all for the 70 minutes or so in the training. But, a lot of lads, they kind of have their own ways. Me personally, I'd go out and I'd get whatever prehab done I need. But I also like, taking maybe 5 minutes just before the session, just to close the eyes and literally reset, because a lot of the times you'd be rushing from work, rushing across, stuck in traffic. It can be quite manic and quite hectic. And, especially if it was a rough day in work or anything like that, the last thing you want is to drive that into training with you, and you suffer for it. So, a lot of the lads would just take 5 minutes to themselves just in a room. We'd turn off the lights and just reset and take that forward.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, you spoke about before on the takeover about kind of taking learnings from every session. Would you make notes at all about training or matches, or is that something you're just kind of making mental notes even?
Yeah, more so mental notes, to be honest. But if it was something that came up in training, say during the session or something, might grab one of the forwards and spend a few minutes at the end of the session just to go through that scenario again, and try to do it right instead of I suppose leaving it on the back burner and thinking about it and wasting a bit of energy thinking about it. So you try nip it in the bud there, or try develop a new technique and coping with it. So that's something that, again, a lot of the players would drive themselves. Just match up and try take those mental notes more so than actually writing them down.
Okay, interesting. And I noticed in a couple of articles, I think it was your club manager and a couple of teammates mentioned that you were always looking for feedback and ways to improve. Is that something that you're asking, as you said there, you're asking the forwards or whether it's management, or is that something that you would have done regularly?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's something I suppose I've just kind of grown up with, asking and wanting to improve myself and better myself, and that kind of drive for, I suppose just pushing your boundaries and see what you can achieve yourself, kind of thing, on a personal level. So yeah, it would be talking to managers, talking to the defensive coach, talking to other backs. I say talking with. In the beginning, talking with Nelson and Nicky Devereux, two other backs, you're picking up tricks off them, and there's such a wealth of knowledge in that camp. Lads who've done so much, both on and off the pitch. So yeah, like you'd be foolish not to be asking. So definitely it's something I brought with me, and it's something I don't hesitate doing either.
And I kind of call it the hidden middle, or like unseen hours, but when you make the panel to getting on the match day team and being a regular like you were in 2020, what is that hidden middle? What is the difference between that time? Is it just the experience? Is it getting the hours under your belt? Can you give us a bit of an insight into that hidden middle, I guess?
Yeah, I wish I had a short answer for that. I spent many years trying to find it. I suppose it's continuing to back yourself. I would like, before I made my championship debut in 2019 in Super 8s against Tyrone. And that year, although it ended very well for us, and personally, making my debut was such a big occasion for me. It was a difficult year because I felt that I'd come into the year in really good shape. Footballing wise, I was playing some of my best stuff ever. And that carried into training, and I made the first championship panel, but didn't come on. And then from then on, I just didn't make any of the teams. And it was, it's very challenging. You start questioning, like, because I say I was playing some of my best football ever. And when you're not making that 26 even, it can be very difficult, but it's one of those things, like I said, when I got into the development squads, I always wanted to play with Dublin. I knew I wanted to make it a dream. And you just have to, like, it takes a lot of resilience, but you just have to keep backing yourself and keep learning, keep asking those questions. I had a few conversations with management around them, asking why wasn't I traveling, why wasn't I getting game time. They give you little pointers on what you need to work on, and you take that with you and you just keep driving. And it's definitely something, that I carried with me. And, obviously it was a strange enough year, 2020, but, I managed to carry that with me into the club, and then into getting a starting place in 2020.
Mm-hmm. How frustrating is it, like you mentioned there, when you're playing well and you don't make the match day panel and you don't travel with the team? How frustrating is it not being involved after putting in so much commitment. And I guess you were there for 5 years doing that. Was there any point where you did step away and you did say, right, I need to take a break from this?
Yeah, no, like it is very difficult. Yeah, so like when I got called in 2014, and up until I suppose now, I was in and out maybe twice. And one of the summers, 2017 in the league, again, I was just after spend the whole year with them. We won the All Ireland in 2016. I'd got myself in good shape for that season, and then in the first game against Cavan, just in the warm up, very innocuous thing, but it fell and injured my elbow, and that kind of league. So I actually got dropped at the end of that league campaign in 2017. But again, I think, with the frustrations around not getting into squads, and then again with the injury, stuff like that, again, it might have been a blessing in disguise, because, that summer I went over to Chicago and I played football there, and, got to experience football in America, which was great. And it's something that I suppose, had always wanted to experience as well. So I think that kind of ticked a lot of boxes. And I came back rejuvenated, came back refreshed again, and was ready to go. But then obviously due to another injury, I didn't actually accept the call up in 2018 because I needed to go for surgery on my left shoulder back then. So I injured it with the club. So that kind of was a year to kind of just get focused, get the shoulder right, and get back playing regularly with the club. Yeah, so then obviously went back in 2019.
Okay, yeah, actually, I didn't know you've gone through so many injuries. Would you call yourself a resilient player? Like, I suppose you've gone through a number of setbacks, more than I actually thought you've actually gone through.
I'd like to think I'm resilient, yeah. I've had my fair share of injuries. Some will call me injury prone. I don't really like to use that term, but yeah, I've picked up a few knocks in fairness, but I've always bounced back from them. So it's I'd like to think I'm resilient, yeah. Because it's very easy, after one or two to just step away and just say, I've given it a good go, So, but no, like I'm happy with what I've achieved, but I'm not satisfied with it all. There's plenty left, and that's a big driving factor for me.
Okay, yeah. And do you find more that you're more motivated by success, for example 2020, or those setbacks? Like you've named a number of injuries there.
Yeah, I think there's a balance between both. Obviously when you experience that success, you want more of it, and it's very easy to justify putting in all those hard hours, when you get a bit of success. But yeah, on the flip side, like, all these injuries, and you'd have, people would doubt, they mean well, but they'd be like, oh, you're always injured, or this, that, and the other, and you kind of want to prove to them, that it's only a little setback and you can drive on and you can push on, and that is a big driving factor for me. And not just the injuries, but the fact that I was on the squad and dropped off the squad, and not making teams, and people kind of saying, oh, would you not just give up now, kind of job. Because you're every year you're looking at younger lads coming in, and you're like thinking to yourself, will you ever get that go? But I knew I would get that go, and I knew I had it in me. I knew I was good enough, but it was just about kind of keep pushing and just waiting and snapping at the opportunity once it came.
Exactly. Do you think that was sort of the biggest difference with 2020, that there was that opportunity, whether it was down to change of management or mostly maybe change of personnel? Because I suppose you came into that role that Jack McCaffrey left. Did you think that was nearly the biggest difference in 2020?
Yeah, there's no point kind of beating around the bush. There was an element of that for sure. Like, Jack's one of the best footballers in the country. And, that's ultimately the position I took up when I came in. But in saying that, if Jack had stayed, I think there would have been another position there for me, because I had a very good club championship. We lost the final to Ballyboden in the end, but, I was playing very, very well in all those games. And I came into it with a lot of confidence and a lot of momentum. The nature of the season that was in it, it was quite short. and choppy. It was quick change around between each game, and I knew I had a good chance of getting in there, whether it be at 7 or anywhere else.
Okay.
Then it was up to me to make that jersey my own, and I'd like to think that I managed that at wing back. And you get a lot of outside noise, people talking about Jack, and again, you can understand why, because of the footballer he is, but you just you learn to block that out, and I say focus on your own game, and I say you have to back yourself. You're good enough to be there, and I think definitely having the club season before that to build that confidence, build the momentum after the first lockdown was a huge plus for me.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that did you ever find it hard kind of being able to block out the outside noise and maybe the media and kind of just the kind of external factors that come with playing with Dublin? Was that ever like a struggle for you?
To be honest, it wasn't really. No, I've managed to stay away and keep out of a lot of it. You might get the odd text from my mum or dad like saying, "Oh, you're in the paper" or something like that.
Yeah.
But them being parents, but I know I've managed to kind of keep out of that quite well, and I have my parents well warned not to contact me whenever something like that is up. But I don't think I managed to stay away from that, and I've enough. A lot of my good friends aren't actually really into Gaelic football, so
Okay.
That's a big plus as well, because they won't know the next thing about it.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And do you find that I was listening to, I think it was an Leinster rugby player, and they were saying they kind of have like maybe a day before a game, they don't look at their phone or like their social media. Is that something that you try to do during the season, that you don't really look at social media? So, for example, if something was to pop up on, let's say, Instagram or Twitter, you wouldn't see it because you're not even on your phone?
I've tried it before, but I always find, kind of maybe the day before you're just taking a handy, you might go on a short walk and you're lazing around a bit. So I never really kind of brought in a 1 day ban on my phone or anything like that.
Okay.
But I just be careful with what I go on. I wouldn't be going on to any sports websites or anything like that. I might just a silly game on my phone or something like that, or just texting in the WhatsApp group with the lads. Again, they don't really know about football, so you wouldn't be talking about it. And I'd find that to be a good enough distraction, to be honest, yeah.
Is there anything in particular you do, let's say like a routine for before a match? Is there anything that you're kind of maybe superstitious about?
I wouldn't say superstitious, but I started, it kind of came about last year actually with lockdown. I just kind of started going for just a walk before the game with my girlfriend. Just 3 kilometers max, maybe, just to get a bit of fresh air that morning. And it's a good way, I find, just to get a bit of water into me as well as, to keep the hydration going. But that's kind of one of the only kind of things. I wouldn't say it's superstitious now. I wouldn't be panicking if I missed it, but one thing that I've kind of grown to enjoy, and I feel it's good, gets the body and mind right for a match.
Would you do any sort of visualization? I suppose that's nearly become like a cliche now with Instagram. I think everybody does a bit of visualization. Yeah,
no, definitely, it's popular at the moment. But yeah, no, to be honest, I would. I've gone through a few scenarios in my head, and I know it doesn't work for everyone. But for me personally, I find it does work. You can kind of, it's almost like you're planning ahead, and you visualize the good things, you visualize the challenging things, and if any of those were to pop up, you kind of, I've been here, I've seen this, I've done this, and I just find it's a good way for me personally anyway to just settle any nerves going into the match.
Would you get very nervous before a match?
I wouldn't get very nervous now, but I will get a bit nervous, yeah, for sure. I think nerves is a good thing. They give you that adrenaline that you might need for a long match. But I think, yeah, I will get slightly nervous, but I would thrive on that, to be honest.
Okay, very good. And how did you find the 2020 season without fans? Do you think, did that play into it at all? Like, or is it true that players can really block out that kind of noise? I find it hard to believe when there's 80,000 people screaming at you, but that's just my perspective from the stands.
Yeah, I suppose it was grand for me because I suppose it's my kind of breakthrough season. And other than warming up in front of 80,000 fans, I've never actually played in front of them. So, it wasn't too different in that sense. And, maybe, breaking into to the back line that had lads that have been in that back line for a good few years, might have been good for me as well, just to be able to hear them communicate clearly and really get to know your role a lot quicker. And I suppose that helps you settle a lot better as well. Imagine if you're trying to, play your first game with such noise, it might be a bit more difficult. But, I saw it as a big plus. Obviously, it's great now, though, to see the fans back. And please God, pushing forward, those numbers will just increase again and again, and I'll get that chance again in front of them. But, maybe just for the first season in, I took all the benefits from it, for sure.
Speaking about that season, the semi-final, you were man of the match. Looking back maybe to like those years where you weren't making the team or even underage, is there anything that you attribute your success now to, or maybe something you did when you were younger that you look back and say, God, I'm really glad I did X or Y because now I'm this caliber of a player?
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to pinpoint maybe one or two things, but I think I think a lot of things happen for a reason. If I think back to even taking that year out to play soccer, I think that contributed big time because I got to train with different athletes and, train a different sport. And in saying that, you're working different muscles. And I took a lot of learnings from that and then brought that into the club and then going off to America, I think all of those contributed to it because mentally they helped me a lot. To be resilient, I didn't feel like, I feel like maybe I, scratched a lot of itches there as well, because I did want to experience America and football and all that over there. So I think all of them contributed to it, to be honest. And then, as I say, with that club championship, just after the lockdown, I think the lockdown gave me a good chance to just recharge the batteries because just that January we had lost the All-Ireland club semis to Kilcoo as well. So that again, would drain the energy a bit. So, and in that game I picked up a little knock as well. So
there's a theme here.
The team, all right, yeah. But that gave me the few months just to really rehab it, recharge the batteries, and just go with, I suppose, pure freshness. So it's hard. Yeah, again, I don't think I can pick one particular moment, but I think all of them in their own way contributed to it, for sure.
I've asked a couple of guests this question. I'm interested to hear your answer. Could you put it as maybe percentage or kind of weigh it up against each other? Is football more physical or mental?
Oh, it is a very good question. All right. It'd be very hard to give it percentage wise, but it is very much 50-50. Okay. Obviously there's a huge physical element to it and you need to get yourself 100% right. But, to do that, you need to be so strong mentally. You need to be happy to give up all the sweet stuff in life when it matters. To balance it out, you might have to, cut a few parties short. You have to balance your work life as well with it, which is huge. So I suppose the more I say it, it's probably more a mental thing at this stage, but
okay.
I think that's a huge element, and I suppose that leads into the physical side of it.
Yeah. Talking about the 2020 final, I suppose coming in to that final again, there was no fans. How did you find that whole experience of winning the title? And I know it was a very different year, but for you personally, being able to go out and play in the final for the first time, obviously was a really big achievement for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a huge honour and a huge achievement for me and my family. And, it is a shame that they couldn't be there in the stadium with me and with the team. But I suppose because it was a strange year, I got to see them that night and I went home and, it was just great to be with them and, only the family. And, it made a real personal moment, I guess, in which was maybe a long personal journey for me, and for them, I suppose, seeing me kind of seen me through the highs and the lows of being on the panel, not getting picked, getting dropped, getting called back in, all that stuff. And, it would have been huge for them. And, they love the game, and they're obviously just delighted to see me getting in and getting involved, but then to win it as well, which was brilliant.
Absolutely. Coming into the 2021 season, after having such a big role in the team last year, and because of your injury, how hard was it to not be in as much with the team and play as big as a role as maybe you had previously?
Yeah, it was difficult. It was obviously very, very different this year. Kind of coming into it, I was my mindset going in was, get the body right, push on. Make even more of an impact. And then for myself to get the shoulder injury in the first Leinster Championship game, it was very difficult, and for sure it was a setback. And then I suppose, your whole mindset changes. It's all about, okay, can I get myself right? I didn't want it to be a season ender or anything like that. And, it was all straight away, it was all about, can I rehab this? Can I get myself back? Can I contribute again on the pitch? And I suppose my role changed, when you're not on the pitch in a player-led environment, your contribution changes in a different way. And that's, helping out with the backs and, giving a few pointers yourself. If you're obviously looking at it from a different side now, different perspective, and, trying to get the lads, the 20 or so lads that do go out and represent the county, to try to get them in the best shape as you can. And, one way is when you're on the pitch against them and, going toe to toe. But when you're injured and you can't do that, you kind of have to take a different approach to it. And I suppose, was every part of me wanted to be on the pitch. It just wasn't able. I wasn't able this year, so I had to change that role for the most part of the season.
What advice would you give maybe the younger players coming into the squad from all your lessons you've learned from being an inter-county player?
Yeah, I suppose the big one is it was something I learned myself when I was their age coming in, is not to wait. You're there to contribute, and not to hold back, not to wait for someone to retire or for something to happen or anything like that, to really just push on and drive. And that's one of the things that I would have said to a lot of the newer lads this year, was naturally enough, your mindset might be, oh, it's great to be here, it's great to be involved. I say, that's no good to the team if you're not pushing on. And that's definitely one thing that I'd say to any young person, that finds himself in a lucky position.
Very good. I suppose from all your injuries, you're kind of used to training by yourself at this stage. What's it like? How do you find training by yourself versus the team environment?
Yeah, it's difficult. Like, obviously you prefer to be in and amongst the lads. There's more crack, and it's a lot easier to bounce off each other's energy and drive yourself on. But yeah, I suppose everyone experienced it over the last while with the lockdowns as well. Getting used to training by yourself. And one thing I found that helps me is going in with a plan. It's very easy to grab a few footballs and just walk out and start kicking the ball, but try set targets, try set goals, and come out of that training knowing you've achieved something other than just kicking the ball right and left. So I developed a few of my own kind of training techniques and stuff that I could do by myself, and that's both in the gym and out of the gym. And it might be a bit difficult with the football, because you might only have access to one or two footballs and you have to go chase them after every kick. But, that's set your targets and your goals, so you're not just chasing the ball around.
Yeah. What would you do out in the pitch out of interest? I know we've had conversations about the shooting challenge that you've also come up with.
Yeah, so the shooting challenge would have been one of the big ones for me. That was just one way. It's very easy to, to set targets for that, and you go right foot and left foot on it. But like a lot of work I would have done is with the ladder as well, just on footwork. and that's something I bought, and I brought that in from the soccer as well, because when I played the soccer, it's obviously all about being light on your feet and being quick on your toes, and you don't focus on that really in Gaelic. And then for a defender, it's one of the most important things. So that's something that, again, just different techniques going through the ladder, front ways, back ways, sideways, all that, and just working on that and hoping to bring that into different drills then when it does come to training amongst the lads again.
Have you been watching those mad NFL footwork ladders thing with them doing backwards and forwards and swapping legs and stuff?
Yeah, I've tried to replicate one or two a bit off before I can post any of them up.
Yeah. Very good. I suppose with the shooting challenge, where did that come from, and how often would you do it maybe by yourself? I'm just interested because I've been trying it out as well, and now I haven't hit 20 yet, never mind 30, so I'm a good bit off.
Yeah, I suppose I'm not too sure where I came up with it, to be honest. I might have just taken elements of different drills and put them all into one. Just when you are kind of thinking for yourself to come up with a challenge, it's something that I don't know. Like I think maybe I took from basketball actually. I played a bit of basketball as well for Temple Oak at my school, and they have a drill that's quite like that, I think, shooting around the world like that. And again, it's the same idea. You go around the arc and you're shooting so many shots from each, and then you're on your way back. So I think I might have actually gotten it from that. To be honest, changed it around for the Gaelic football. So I think that's where that kind of came from. Yeah.
And how often would you do that drill yourself during the season, or maybe even the off season?
Yeah, I do it a lot more in the off season. Like in the season, especially because of COVID and all, the games come, around
so
very
short.
Exactly. Yeah. So a lot of your time off training is actually just recovering and getting the body right. And so it'd be a lot more difficult to get out and do them. But in the off season now, I try to get it at least once a week, type of thing, just to because I do believe in the importance of getting a mental break, from late. But at the same time, you want to just keep tipping over, and I think it's a nice way to kind of get out a bit of fresh air. It doesn't take that long to do, and you can kind of just keep tabs on how your kicking's going when you come into the new season.
Exactly, yeah. As an intercounty player, I'm interested in kind of the time and how much you actually think about the game. Could you give us, maybe, you don't even have to give us a number, but just like sort of an estimation of how often do you actually think about the game, maybe over a day or during the week?
A lot. Like you would be, so obviously when you're training, you'd be out an hour early, and it might take you an hour to get there, with traffic and all that. And then you're coming home late, and so whilst you're there, it's you're thinking about it for the most part anyway, getting yourself right on any meetings or anything like that. But then even off, on your days off, you might be going in looking at videos of training and trying to pick up a lesson, or see where things went right or where things went wrong and where can be improved, and then obviously getting yourself right and looking at who you're coming up against, bit of opposition analysis, and it's so important to see who you're coming up against, and so it will take up a lot of time even when you're not physically there training, and there is a good bit behind it as well.
Yeah, I had an interesting conversation with your teammate Johnny Cooper all about habits. And at this stage of your career, do you think that you mentioned there the kicking once a week in the off season and a couple of different bits like say eating well, sleeping well, do you think it's now more of a habit than a daily choice of, right, I should do the right thing here?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's at the start when you're starting off, you want to create good habits, and once you start doing it quite often, it just becomes part of you and part of your routine. And I would never see doing that shooting drill. I would never see that as a chore. It's just one of those things that I know it benefits me, and it's something that has become a habit, and it's just something I do naturally enough now.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the biggest difference between club and intercounty football?
Yeah, again, like the club football has improved drastically over the last number of years, and that's just not just talking about standard, but like even just the time and commitment that goes into it. And I know, obviously, I'm very fortunate to be in a club like Ballyboden with lads who are, you know, given just as much as any inter-county lad when it comes to the club. And when I say that, it's opposition analysis and, again, looking at trainings and sending clips to each other and all. So, again, it's, you know, there might be a little small element of, you know, maybe obviously a slight time consuming, you know, you're traveling a bit further maybe for the trainings and all that as well. And you're literally training amongst the best in your county as well. But, you know, the way the club game has gone, and I see it myself with my own club, is it's you know, it's catching up big time, and it's great to see, and it's great to see lads who, you know, who are doing that again, like the inter-county, you know, they're just doing it to create their own habits and driving their own standards as well.
Mm-hmm. For any of the younger listeners that are listening at the moment, is there any particular skill or attribute that we maybe overlook as coaches that they should work on themselves?
I think one of the main things is being able to listen. And that's like, I don't know if it's quite cliched as well, but, you know, a lot of people give tips on maybe kicking with their, you know, their weak foot and all that stuff. But, you know, I'm a teacher as well, and I've coached a few of the football teams, and you know, you're dealing with every type of player there. And I definitely think one of the best skills you can have is just being able to listen and take lessons on board. And, you know, that would definitely be that would be my biggest advice for any young person coming up, because, you know, coaching those teams, a lot of those lads, you know, got onto the starting 15, and they mightn't have been the best player, but, you know, they were able to listen and they're able to, you know, take those lessons on board and be as effective as they could. Again, their stuff mightn't have been the best, but in terms of what they brought to the team, you know, they were so effective. And I think that's a huge skill. You know, and it's, you know, it's just putting an ego to the side. You know, I think when we're all young, we think we know a lot, but you know, be happy to take what is being said to you on board, and you might not always agree with it, and you can be free to challenge it, but don't dismiss it. I think that'll be a big one for sure.
So do you have a future in coaching? Is that what I'm hearing?
To be honest, I actually wouldn't mind it. I don't think. Okay. I think first, like, again, it's time consuming, but when you're there for the 60 minutes or whatever, it's great, you know. And to have, you know, kids happy to listen and train, and you know, just seeing them give their all, you know, I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. So yeah, could be down the line, all right. Yeah.
What kind of coach were you? Were you screaming from the sidelines, one of them?
I'd like to say I had a bit of both. It depended, yeah. I'd like to think I was calm enough when it came to it, but yeah, a few of my players could tell you differently. All right.
Yeah. I have to get on to them for the honest answer. But I'm going to move on to the sideline 7. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every episode. Question 1: what is your favourite quote?
Yeah, so I had a good think about this. My favourite quote, there's a good few ones, but one that resonates with me a lot is we cannot become what we want to be by remaining what we are. And I think the reason I chose that one is because I suppose, you know, when you get fortunate to be in certain positions, you know, it can be quite easy to sit back and be happy with what you have. And, you know, I think I stand by that a lot. You know, you want to get the most out of you as possible, and you want to become what you are capable of becoming. And I think that's one quote now that resonates with me big time. And, you know, it's just about looking for, you know, little tweaks in your game and pushing forward and driving on. So yeah, it'd be that quote there.
Very good. Second question: best sporting event you've been to?
So for this one, it would have to be any of the All-Ireland finals, football finals I've been to. I'd say the first one I was ever at was 2011, where I actually played in the minor final myself. But, you know, my dad's from Donegal, and my cousin Paul Durkin played for Donegal, so we were at the following All Ireland final in 2012, and just any of those as a spectator were just magical, and then obviously being involved in a lot of them myself were just incredible. And then outside of Gaelic, I suppose maybe I'm a big Celtic fan, so
Okay.
a good few years ago I went to Champions League match in the round of 16 against Juventus. That was quite spectacular as well. Just again, different sport and all, but you grow up watching Champions League and watching the biggest names in the game, and that was quite magical as well.
Is there any particular sporting event that's on your bucket list?
Yeah, there'd be a few now. I'd love to go to Euros or World Cup, and just experience those. And again, maybe because I played basketball when I was younger, I'd love to go to an NBA game.
Yeah.
I think they're all doable. Obviously, preferably I'd like Ireland to be involved in maybe the World Cup or the Euros if I was to go, but might have to wait another few years.
Yeah, I was just about to say maybe a couple of years. Looking back, what is the biggest setback or challenge so far in your career?
I suppose it'd be wrong of me not to mention a few of the injuries.
Yeah.
I've had my fair share of them, and they range between concussion to left shoulder to right shoulder to whatever. So, they each in their own right were a big setback. But I saw them as opportunities. To focus on what I could and what I needed to, and get them right and get the body right. I think they were maybe the biggest setbacks, but also the biggest driving factors.
Mm-hmm. Kind of on the flip side of that, what is your biggest achievement on or off the pitch?
So I suppose on the pitch, personally, it would have been winning the Club All Ireland in 2016 with Ballyboden, and then winning the All Ireland last year in 2020 with Dublin. To be on the pitch for both of those were just incredible. I'd say as a young kid, you dream of playing for your county, and then you dream of winning All Ireland with them, and to be on the pitch for that was incredible. And then the club one, it's one of the most special medals out there. And to win that with the lads you grow up with and lads you see every day of every week, that was incredible in itself. So they were on the pitch, and then off the pitch, again, probably one of the biggest moments for me was after the balcony collapse in Berkeley a few years back. I knew a few that were affected, so myself and a few of my friends, we started a fundraising campaign for them, Cycle for Berkeley, and we raised over 80,000.
Wow.
Those families that were affected. So that was definitely one of my biggest achievements off the pitch. Just being able to help those families in whatever way, and it was done over 72 hours. It was a cycle over 72 hours, and it was based in Dundrum, and just seeing everyone come together and contribute in whatever way they could, whether it was to sit on a bike for 2 hours and do a shift at 2 a.m. in the morning for us, or even Dundrum were great. A lot of the shops were giving us food and supplies to help us with that fundraising campaign. So that definitely something I hold very dear to me.
Wow, that's incredible. Looking back, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
The advice I give to my 18-year-old self would be not to wait. So I spoke about getting called into teams, and kind of people telling you to serve your time, and you're coming into a successful team and all that. But if I could tell myself 18 years old now not to wait, and don't take that as an excuse, that's what I would do. And that's something I tell a lot of kids nowadays, to drive on, push on, don't wait for things to happen, make them happen yourself.
Very good. Who'd be your dream dinner guest and why? And you can open up the table to a couple of people.
Well, I think anyone who knows me very well would know that Henrik Larsson would be number one on the list.
Okay.
Obviously, big Celtic fan, and he was my hero growing up. So he'd be the very first name on the list. If I was to add one or two others, I don't know, maybe Barack Obama, wouldn't mind chat with him as well. But definitely Henrik Larsson for sure would. Yeah, that'll be the dream.
Would you be cooking dinner?
Well, come back. I don't think he's on me. So, I might order in that night.
Very good. Final question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Yeah, difficult question. I'd probably, if I was to be quite cryptic about it, I'd probably just call it opportunity.
Okay.
And again, the reason why is because, as I say, I came into this season, looking to push on. I had the setback with my shoulder, had the surgery on it there recently as well. So, it'd be quite easy for myself to sit back and just, kind of feel sorry for myself. But I think now, I see this as an opportunity for myself to to get myself right, to work on things that need to be worked on, and that's both football and that's in work, general life as well. So I'd like to look at this next kind of, I suppose, chapter as a huge opportunity.
Brilliant. Look, Robbie, thanks so much for your time. I really enjoyed that. I just want to wish you the best of luck with your injury and on and off the pitch. And thanks a million again.
Thanks for having me, Orla. Thank you.
A massive thank you to Robbie for joining me today. I thoroughly enjoyed our chat, so I hope you got something from the episode. Be sure to try out the shooting challenge, which will be linked in the description box below. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a rating and a review, as it does help the show grow. Don't forget to follow us on social media at The Sideline Live and check out the website thesidelinelive.com for more. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.